Tennille says, yeah, and never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. Exactly. Napoleon said that. The only caveat is that he said that the night before the Battle of Waterloo, but it's definitely still valid. Yeah, there was just a miscalculation there. We won't get into all the history there, but something we will talk about history real quick. Andre, you saw Cleopatra.
I did see Cleopatra. Not the whole thing, but I've seen the very
I saw
first
you tweeting about
episode
it,
of
which is
it.
something you don't normally do is
I
tweet.
don't normally know. Let's bring that up and we can go through it.
Well, let
As
me see if I can find your tweet. Yeah.
I sent it to you.
Oh, you did? Where?
Let's in your messenger, I believe.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah. Because I already did a video on it. I'm planning a follow-up video, and for that I need to have seen at least some of it. Now, Cleopatra is 4 episodes. Of those 4 episodes, I have seen 1. And as I was watching it, I decided, I kind of suck at Twitter. But let's try to get into this a little bit. So I live tweeted it as I watched it, and I took like pictures of the screen and everything to underline my points. And my first tweet then was watching Cleopatra on Netflix. 4 minutes into the first episode, this is already among the worst pseudoscientific drivel and ideopolitical propaganda I have seen in my life. Insidious rewrite of history claiming to be a documentary, yet this is clearly fiction. And I did say 4 minutes in, but honestly, the problem started earlier than that. They actually started right away in the opening narration, which is by Will Smith's wife. So let's keep our names out, or her name out of our mouths. Let's see, come and slap us. But anyway, it begins with basically saying there once was a woman who ruled, who bowed down to no man. And I was like, oh my God, the hell are you talking about? She was basically portraying Cleopatra as this amazing girl boss warrior queen. Something which never ever happened. Just go up to the next one. And go for a little bit further down because we'll go through them in order there, because that's the whole thing. So go back up to the top again.
I'd rather look at the kitties.
Okay. Well, I don't blame you. So would I. I would also rather look at kitties.
Where do you want me to go
this.
here?
Just go back up to the top again. We'll go through.
Okay. So where am I looking?
Up to the top. This is like the bottom of the thread.
Well, that's where I was. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then you remember from the trailer where you had like this expert who was like talking about, I imagine that Cleopatra looked just like me and had my complexion and my hair and everything like that. Yeah. He was also there talking about, because you had like this story kind of like begun with her in the Library of Alexandria, talking about how amazingly well-read she was and well-educated. This is all true. But then he went into, I imagine that she was sitting there in the library and she was reading about earlier queens of Egypt, being inspired about what an unbelievable girl boss queen she was going to be and how she would bow to no man. They literally say this. It's basically, he's like projecting into the series that she always dreamt that she was going to be this amazing warrior queen, which again she never was. Let's go down to the next tweet here, Tom, since you control it. And then of course talking about changing the world and everything, because her father is dying. And when he dies, he's complaining about that he's worried about the people around him. He don't trust them. They might change what he has done. And she's like, don't worry, Daddy, I'll protect your legacy. You can trust me. And then the moment he croaks, she's like, I'm going to change everything now. Now we can change how we do things. And then, of course, they give some more background about Egypt. And then they start talking about the populace of Egypt, and they show them on screen. This is where I had to take the first picture to prove it. Because they basically say that there's three main ethnic groups in Egypt at this time. There's the Greeks, there's the Jews, and wait for it, there is the native Egyptians, the native population to Egypt. And all of them are black. So the persons you see on screen here, they are the representatives of the native population of Egypt. And just remember, Egypt is in North Africa, not sub-Saharan Africa. So this right here is a rather insidious rewrite of history that no one actually believes. And I do have it on good record that the consultants that Netflix worked with for this series are exactly as I speculated in my video. There's like a handful of people that were activists first, and that then got their degrees and became certified historians and archaeologists and Egyptologists afterwards, but they were activists first. And they're looked down upon in the community because they spread this bullshit theories that no one else believes because there's no reason to believe them. They are the ones who are consulting on this series. They found like all three of them, all three of these like odd ones out are the ones consulting, and they are the ones maintaining, yeah, Egyptians were probably black. And then they go on and on and on about the racial diversity of Egyptians and how the native populace of Egypt, you had like some were lighter, some were darker, some looked like they would have been from Sudan and might as well have been from Sudan, but it's all good and well. That's how it was, although it plainly wasn't. So again, this is just like unbelievable rewrites of history, and they don't even believe it themselves. You can like tell that they're like trying to maintain a narrative. And then, of course, this being made in the modern era, you have scenes of Cleopatra fighting and, of course, besting much bigger and well-trained soldiers, because why not? And everyone on staff in Egypt is, of course, black, and some look North African, except one. There is one person working for the staff there who is white. Now, the reason he's white is because it's part of history that Pompey was killed and he was beheaded. And this was a rather nasty act. So you can't have a black person do something so nasty. So no, 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 no. There was a white person in Egypt, apparently. One white Egyptian on the court payroll. And that's the guy they sent to do the one nasty deed. So, yeah, pretty heavy messaging right there. And I finished the first episode. My summaries I cannot recommend. And I stand by what I've said before. The definitive live action adaptation of the story of Cleopatra is not the Ellis Taylor version. Forget about that. That's an old movie that no one under the age of 50 have seen anyway. The definitive adaptation of Cleopatra remains her storyline in HBO's Rome. Go watch that and thank me later. And Tom, if you now scroll down a little bit more, someone helpfully put a picture of her there. That right there from American Werewolf. That would be the single best depiction of Cleopatra in live action to date. And what's funny is when you look at the statues of her and everything, it actually
Puppy.
does look like her. Yeah, and puppies and kitties later on. People couldn't deal with the stupidity.
Yeah. No, I'm surprised you will put yourself through it.
Well, I have to do a video about it. I have to be a little bit informed about what I talk about. I mean, I suffered through this for
I
our
watched
audience.
Citadel. Come on.
Yeah.
Nobody asked you to, though, Paul.
But Paul, you are of course into history, archaeology, these things. Based on my description, how excited are you to see a Netflix version of Cleopatra?
None whatsoever. I think there's this weird cult amongst certain well-heeled individuals who want to rewrite history in their for themselves.
Oh yeah, definitely.
In their own image, yeah.
In their own image. And this is just insanity. I don't see how this helps. I think people within that group, there's going to be children in schools who are going to, say, hey, look, I see myself as Cleopatra, and I guess this is my history, and it's not your history.
No, it's history that you have appropriated. Cleopatra was Greek.
And history is history. Why not learn history the way to the best of our knowledge happened? One of the things about history is that things change, right? I mean, there's suppositions, and then new discoveries are made. Even, more ancient temples are found. And we change our views as to who was there. But the Egyptian history is pretty settled, and
certainly
there was no
the
Black
latter part of it. Because here's like the thing: the Egyptian history, that's a long ass period of time. People have to remember there's a longer distance in time between Cleopatra and the building of the pyramids than there is between Cleopatra and us. That is how long.
5,000 years ago, the pyramids were built, and Cleopatra is close to biblical.
Exactly, that's what I mean. So, like that period, that one is very settled. Like, there's, if they wanted to do like a black pharaoh, you have earlier dynasties where you actually could make that argument, especially when we go further back. And the historical record becomes a little bit more sketchy, because further back in time you go, there are fewer and fewer sources there are when it comes to things Egyptology. But in that very latter period, and this is just the end of ancient Egypt, during like the modern kingdoms and stuff, or the new kingdom as this is a part of history that is very well understood, and that there's not many mysteries about.
Well, and not only the black component of this is potentially, up for discussion. The present day Egyptians are nothing like the ancient Egyptians. There's no DNA connection.
Well, there is between the minority of Coptic Christians.
Yes, I was just going to say, I had a friend, Magdi, who was Coptic, and his mother was the spitting image of the famous head sculpture of Cleopatra. She had this long, lithe neck, and she had this very royal bearing and face. And you looked at her, Magdi's mother, and you go, "Oh my God, she looks like Cleopatra," and she was Coptic. So,
because those are the closest living descendants to the ancient Egyptians, are the Coptic minority.
That is my understanding.
Yeah.
This clip was taken from Midnight's Edge in the Morning, which streams live every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time on the Midnight's Edge main channel. There you can send in your live questions and comments before clips and full stream replays are uploaded to Midnight's Edge live archives. We are also on Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey and Facebook, so smash that like, help share, subscribe and join us.